Okay, here we go. This is VannyGPT 1.0, something I've been working on for a little while now, and some of you may have seen some of the posts I've been doing about collecting and scraping all of the Veeam KB data into a Mongo database, and then we've wrapped an API around that, and really all of that has led to this. And so I just want to give you a quick demo of how it works rather than publishing it to the internet, because it still needs some work around the sanitization and cost management and caching queries, and there's a whole heap of enhancements that it really needs before it's kind of production grade. But ingested everything last night, created all the embeddings. They're sitting off over in Pinecone, which is a SaaS-based vector database, and then we're using a couple of the different OpenAI models, one of the embeddings models to take any of these queries in, and then a question and answering completions model that we're feeding the full KB article back once we get something back from the vector database. So here it goes. I mean, these are questions that are just random. I've sort of pre-canned them just because I can't think of things on the fly, but here's some of the ones I just went through some of the KBs and thought of some questions I might want to ask some of those knowledge base articles. So here we go. First one. Some of these take a wee while to load too. Again, not sure if you can speed this up on the OpenAI side of things, but here it goes. So are Microsoft Loop websites supported? Answer, no. Veeam backup from Microsoft 365 does not currently support sites created by Loop. However, once Microsoft Loop becomes generally available, support for this feature will be developed. You can, from this window, click off to the full KB article on the Veeam site, or because we're actually storing those articles in our database, we're able to render them inline. So we're actually converting that markdown back to HTML and injecting it in here. So you can see we've effectively passed all of this to our Q&A engine, to the Q&A model, along with the user's initial query, in this case, Microsoft Loop website supported, and OpenAI AI has interpreted that answer from that text. So let's run through some more, and here's a really interesting one. So it all, again, down to the nuance of how you ask the question. So question here is, Veeam Kubernetes service can't start. Is this a known issue? How do I resolve it? And in a second, we're going to get an answer back, and you'll notice the differences between the two answers we get back. So this is a known issue. It can be resolved by updating effectively. So that's great. We know we can update and resolve the issue, but what was actually the cause of the issue? And if you read down here, when the short date locale setting is configured to display a year in 2-digit format, blah, 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 that's what the actual root cause is. So if we ask the question in a slightly different way, Veeam Kubernetes service can't start. What is the issue and how do I resolve it? We ask it again, and hopefully we get back something about the date format. There we go. The issue was caused by the short date locale setting XYZ. The issue is resolved by updating. So we still get that resolution in there, but we're also getting the actual root cause. So let's run through a couple of other fun little ones, like a Teams one. So apparently Microsoft is now metering Teams message data. How do I apply, and is there anything additional need? I've actually misspelt that, so interesting to see how it interprets it. To ensure my Teams chat messages continue to be protected. Click Ask Vanny. Again, going to buzz away to OpenAI, interpret the first result that we've found. So point of note here is when I enter this, what actually happens is this text here is actually embedded, much like we embedded, effectively generated those vectors for all of the KB articles. We actually embed and generate vectors for the query that was entered. And then we go and ask Pinecone, hey, what is semantically the most similar to this? And it will return us a result. And in this example, I'm really only returning one of the results. But probably in a real world production scenario, we might return multiple, combine those, summarize them, and then actually try and interpret the answer from those. But in this basic example, we've returned back this article, and then again, ask the Q&A engine, and you can see it's returned out here. So it says, to ensure that your Teams message data is protected, you first must register an app and collect the necessary information for the API request form, which it is. We all know that that's a Microsoft form. And after that, you must request access to the protected APIs from Microsoft. Finally, you must associate your subscription with the app registration for billing purposes. So again, all of that's in this big text, and that's the answer that it's gathered from this huge KB, which is pretty neat. A couple of other ones. here's a fun one on a Red Hat release. And I was talking with Anthony before about it, and we were kind of going through this um, in real time. And so summarize the Veeam backup for Red Hat V3A release. And we'll get back a relatively unformatted text here, but as you see, we'll step through it. It's able to interpret different sections of the KB pretty well. It's not perfect, but it does a pretty good job. So you can see it's pretty unformatted, but for the most part, if you actually bother to read this, that is what is actually summarized in here. And then so the next issue we want is, well, what if we wanted to just summarize the resolved issues that were in this release? So if we modify our query here, punch this in, summarize the resolved issues with the Veeam backup for Red Hat V3A release, and then hopefully we see just the summary of the resolved issues that was within that one section of the KB article. And remember, we're feeding the whole thing to this model, so it's pretty powerful. And so you can see, yeah, the resolved issues are backup fails with the error invalid parameter. If we scroll down, yep, backup fails with invalid parameter, and you can see there's a bunch of other ones in there which correlate to all these little bullet points in here effectively. So that's cool. And then the next one really is, if we were looking for a specific error within the Red Hat thing that we might have had some issues with in the past, can it work out whether or not we have resolved those? And sure enough, so it can. Well, it did last time I asked, so who knows what we'll get this time. But does the Red Hat V3A version resolve the unchanged area size equal to 0 error on backups? And if we let this run, hopefully it'll say, yes, it does, and maybe some other text. Yes, the Red Hat V3A plugin resolves the unchanged area size on backups. And if we scroll down, there it is there. So yeah, as you can see, it's a bit of a work in progress, but I'm pretty happy with it. This is all just using native Node JavaScript effectively to talk to all the APIs and the Pinecone databases. I've kind of already started version 1.5, 2.0, whatever you like to call it, which is using some of the new LangChain functionality, which is actually, yeah, as I mentioned in the blog post that's referencing this, come along really fast, and the space is moving so quickly that a lot has changed just in the short period of time that I started building this in February through to now. So hope you enjoyed it. Send feedback as required. Always keen on seeing that sort of stuff and what we could make of it. Cheers.